All right, everybody, welcome on in to the Kraken Smite League, this time with a Puddles division on this beautiful Saturday. My name is Judas Priestley, joined today by Reed. And Reed, we have a fantastic potential game on our hands here as we are watching the Crew versus Kappa Corporation. The Crew currently sit 1-1 after 2 weeks of play, while Kappa Corporation find themselves at the very bottom of the Kraken Smite League at 0-2 so far, but can they turn it around?
And they turn it around? That's the big question. Not just us on the casting desk are asking, but also these players. A big turnaround here for someone like the Kappa Corp can result in a great amount of momentum going forward throughout the rest of this season. Currently looking at that 0-2 position, like you mentioned, Judas, this is a big game for Kappa Corporation. While on the other hand, for the Crew, this is just another potential chance for them to continue building that synergy that's being developed over the course of these first few weeks and see how far it will let them go.
We want to see how far they can go, and we will see how they go about doing that as we head on over to picks and bans for this first game. Now, it is very, very important to me, at least, to note that both of these two teams last week actually lost 2-0. Now, the good news is that they both won't be losing 2-0 again. So we've at least got that going for us. Someone's got to win at some point. But I do wonder what these two teams will have been doing in this past week, just to build themselves up for that. Because I actually got to cast Kappa Corporation last week. And unfortunately, while they had some idea of the drafts they wanted to go for, it really didn't seem like it actually managed to come off too cohesively. So I'm going to be paying very close attention to how they opt to go for it. But I'm receiving some word we actually may not have picks and bans for this. Reed, what do you think? Do you just want to head on into the game, or should we at least look at how this draft out?
I mean, if we're ready to head on to the game, we can go ahead and do that. If we have any word from the production, we can figure that out here quickly here. But either way, I am going to be excited to see exactly what both these teams draft up together here. This is a big opportunity for both of them to step forward and really prove their stuff. Can the Crew rebound after the failures of last week? Can Kappa Corporation make up for what's kind of fallen apart thus far and really show off where they excel at? This is a big game for both of these Puddles teams and can really lead into excellence throughout the rest of this season. And in general, when it comes to picks and bans, it's been so fun to just kind of contemplate exactly where each god may be going. There's been so much variety with gods like Charon going into that mid role, Guardians now
Absolutely.
heading that way into solo. There's a lot of potential here, and I would love to see the picks and bans, but if that's not in the cards, it's not in the cards.
Yeah, it does look like we are just going to get right onto this one and head straight over to the game as soon as it is ready. So we won't get any speculation. There will be no discussion. We're just going to have to hop in and try to quickly break down what these two teams are doing. And I'm excited to see it because, like you said, while these are very important games in the context of the seasons of both these two teams, in a more wider focus of Smite in general at the moment, it's quite Wild West. Like you were saying, things like the Charon going to the mid lane. Are Guardians better than Warriors in the solo lane? It's not really something that anyone has the answer to. And of course, there's no SPL this year, so there's no Pro League to actually watch on. So everyone's just kind of figuring their own way through it. But we do get into the game. We're going to see what is spicing up in the action here, and it's pretty standard for Kappa Corp, although an Erlong Shen jungle maybe not quite so regular. However, a god I specifically want to ask you about here, Reed, is this Cthulhu in the solo lane for the Crew.
I mean, this is a big thing coming off the most recent patch here, buffing up certain items like Conduit Gem. We now have things like Void and Marmu here in Season 11. There's so much value that these solo lane Guardians can work off of, and with a god like Cthulhu, he was more or less designed for this lane. So bringing him out here makes a lot of sense. Now, how it will perform against a god who's been performing so well, like this Bologna, who seems to be building this Death Toll here, it's going to be rough to really tell you, but it should be a very exciting watch. And of course, I love the Death Soul here because it's very aggressive. It may have a hard time translating into the late game, but early on, it makes you feel like a god as you swipe away at those minions and those health bars.
Yeah, when you do just get your way to just chop down through, like you say, minions or enemy guards, in particular in that whip stance that Bologna has, you're just constantly gaining health, and like you say, it makes you feel like a god, makes you feel invincible. But I do wonder what Brotaco can do into that. If Cthulhu can get dominance in this lane, that god will not struggle when we get into the late game stages. So very excited to see if that god can be made to work, because I haven't seen a whole lot of Cthulhu basically ever. My entire casting career has never actually been that strong of a god, so I would like to finally see how that works. But a lot of pressure already going the way of the crew in this duel lane. Is that how you would have expected this duel lane to go?
Well, more or less, Ganesh is going to be a little bit of a slower option than a Sobek, and I feel like this Sobek has been oh so valuable thus far throughout this season of QSL, and throughout the season of Smite in general. He's been a contested pick so steadily all the way throughout. We've been seeing him either picked up or banned in just about every single game. And because of that, he has an Wheelers on his team as well. When that jungle starts rolling on down that lane, it's going to spell some trouble for Kappa Corporation, speaking of.
Yeah, here comes the jungler for the crew, lurking nearby. Going to be very tough to actually get a successful gank there, but making an attempt nonetheless was Alpha Awakened, and you can't really fault it. Not really going to be punished, because that's just what junglers have the freedom to do at the moment. They can make these early rotations to these side lanes and just see if there's any real opportunities. But of course, O'Wheelix, one of the fastest starting assassins in the jungle at the moment, but does still need that gravity surge to really start imposing themselves on the map. But speaking of imposing themselves, my goodness, that is the E-Shell for the crew already getting off to first blood. And hold on, there might be another blood on the way as well, because down will go Cactus Arms as well. So bad for Kappa Corp, but so good for the crew.
And here's the thing, you were mentioning that Wheelers is a very fast starting jungle, but as well, she brings a lot of pressure into that late game. If she's able to get set up here, which that kind of first blood on Eggshell is indicative of, she could be a dominant force, kind of describing the rest of this game throughout this entire game. Kappa Corporation do really need to start playing this safer and safer, get those wards out, be more communicative, and make sure things like that aren't really allowed to happen in the future here.
Yeah, clearly there, I think Cafe Cat out there on the Tiamat struggling to recognize the situation and just the potential damage that McThick by the way, I wanted to give that name a shout out, but I couldn't really call it when I first read it when the E-Shell got the kill. But yeah, knowing the god that you're playing, E-Shell, of course, not the most popular of picks in the competitive scene, but when you can make this god work, one of the good things about them is they just have this combo of abilities that can really blow you up if you're not careful. And yeah, Cafe there punished very quickly along with the blink from Alpha Awakened, and then just somehow Kappa Corp also drop a kill in the left hand lane, and it might also be dropping a kill in the right hand lane as well. Look at this.
No.
The E-Shell, the very immobile E-Shell, makes a long rotation to solo lane and gets their big reward for it.
She's currently about a half a level ahead, but if she misses out on this full lane, she may start to lose out more and more dividends. Tiamat splitting that wave over on left. Hold up. That.
Oh my goodness, there comes a mounted archery in the nick of time, and Penguin falls down. Another pluck onto the Ganesh, gets an ohm, but will not get any more than that. Drops Adamic Pillars just to try and make something of it, but 5-0 now, the kill lead for the crew over Kappa Corp. I'm just looking at this Erlong Shen, looking thinking, what the hell is going on this game?
I mean, this is the big thing here too, is that the crew are getting kills, and they're not just leaving it as that, they're also looking for invades, they're looking for more farm, neutral farm, whatever they can find to keep on extending out that lead. And it's now starting to develop just about under 3k gold here in the first 5 minutes. The crew are really setting the pace for this game, and Kappa Corporation have to find a way to rebound, because the game is starting to slip ever so quickly out of their hands.
That's already more than a 2,000 gold lead in favor of the crew, and if they are putting this combination together, it could look good for them. Looks like there's action on the right-hand side, and that will be a return kill for Commando there onto Brotaco. So finally, something on the board for Kappa Corp, and I'm sure Commando's not happy because this Bologna, of course, should generally have the pressure over a Cthulhu early on, but the impact of a quick mid-rotation from McThickler Quick, of course, skewed that going the other way. A little bit of brawling over its left-hand side as well. I'm happy to see that Kappa Corp are not just going to sit back and let this happen.
No, certainly not. They're finding a way to keep in this game. Even if it's just one kill right now, that should swing quite wildly. Dharma Killer's coming on out, plucked from the Sobek.
Ooh, danger here. There's a Maridachi on 2, and there's Mr. Pujangle going for it. Finds the shot, and then it will just be a matter of time. Oh, Cactus Arms there. Great juke with the remove obstacles. Can they get out? Very low health, but will not get away. It is a double kill in the duo lane for the crew, and while they were making good movements forward for Kappa Corp, they get completely punished for it.
It's a bit of overconfidence being the folly there, but Erlongshan coming into this mid lane here.
Oh, here we go. It's a great end coming out, and that will be the end of this Tiamat yet again. The Enigma Skater now had a good flank, but now has to retreat. Look at the damage that Ishel is able to dish out at the moment. Top of the player damage charts already, still staying ahead of Mr. Pujangle on the Hachiman. What a good start from the crew's mid laner.
That crew has been very dominant thus far in every single situation. If you don't see where that Wheeler is immediately, you should be afraid. The ward coverage here is not playing to the benefit of Kappa Corporation quite yet, because they need to have that communication. This Wheelish has been such a key factor in so many of these engagements already. With a 1 kill and 2 assists, she's been very effective. But on top of that as well, if we just look towards this Hachiman, we can see how many kills he's already racked up. We've got to be very we've got to be recognition of the fact that this dual lane is not so far going the way of this X-Ball and Ganesh.
Yeah, and that's kind of okay, right, in a usual sense. You don't have to be dominating a lane when you've chosen Jibalanka and Ganesh, right? You're not picking that dual lane to just say, oh yeah, we're going to take over the game first 10 minutes, no problem. That's not what this comp does. But that's also not really what Sobek Hachiman does, and at the moment, they are succeeding. So, as much as this Jibalanka will get to late game and will still be a strong threat, of course, that's just why Hachiman has been such a highly prioritized pick lately. That's just what that god does too. So, the crew are certainly looking to ride off of that and looking to now turn their attention onto Cactus Arms as well. It does drop the Dharmic Pillars again. Here comes the great end. It's firing out a lot of damage, but will not quite be enough damage. But look at the freedom that the crew have to do. There's nothing that Kappa Corp can do to punish them for this.
No, I mean, that's the state of the game so far. The crew have just pushed up such a dominant early game here. Despite the fact that they don't have traditionally the strongest early game, they are playing against a team that's a little bit of a slower start from them, and they're making great kind of advantage of that situation. Like we were saying, Hachiman versus X-Ball. Okay, pretty traditional. Both are looking for that late game, looking to really shred later on into this match here. Hold that thought, however, here in the mid lane.
Woo! Cactus Arm's going all the way under tower, wants to put the damage out, but unfortunately that's just all of the damage that Tiamat's able to do at this stage in the game. You know, you like to see a Tiamat be picked up, you know, they like to be active on the map, but they don't really provide this big surge of damage, and similarly show for Erlang Shen, not the type of god to blow someone up, but they're gonna get blown up again. McThickler Quick takes another kill for this Ishel, 4-0 so far. Reed, why are we not seeing Ishel more often if it can be played like this?
It's a very good question. I mean, there's this whole debate going on in the mid lane right now of whether or not mages are truly effective enough. And with gods like Ishel being able to build in the conduit gem, that debate may have a whole new facet in which to talk about. Now, am I the one to talk about it? Perhaps not. I may hate mages, and to see them go away puts a smile on my face. Give me an ADC in that lane any day, and that's how most players have been playing it. But this Ixchel so far is proving that this may be contrary to the value that this god is able to provide.
Oh, look at the damage that this Wheelix can just dish out right now. And Alpha Awaken knows it. You know, when you know you're the big dog at the park, you're going to throw that weight around. And unfortunately, there is quite literally nothing in the world that Cactus Arms can do about this. You have your whole kit at your disposal, but you don't want to use it. There's a dash into the mid lane from the Sobek. Look at the damage that just comes right back at the Enigma Skater. Trying to make a play onto the mid laner, but despite being a jungler who's had an okay start to the game, alright, you're 0-1 and it's not looking great. You're only one level down in the opposing Wheelix. You'd think you'd be able to make something happen, but unfortunately the target is not going to be this E-Shell.
Yeah, we've got nearly 1 minute and 30 seconds before the Stygian Beacon comes up, but before that, it seems like the crew want to go for this Gold Fury here. They have a high amount of dominance over on this left side with the amount of pressure Ixchel's put out, but
Cactus Arms is just gone, but in the backline, actually, there's a great engage from the Enigma Skater onto the Hachiman, who does manage to retreat, but they both get out alive. But now Commando is in. Commando's going to find out exactly what's been happening on this side of the map, and unfortunately pays the price, their second spill of the game. Now, the crew did get forced off of the Gold Fury. They're just going to pick it right back up again. Look at the space that Alpha Awaken can create. And Brotaco's just going to show up and say, don't worry, guys, I got this. Plays bodyguard to Spenguin, and that will be that for this first Gold Fury. The crew extending their gold lead.
And the fact that the Stygian Beacon's coming up so shortly here as well, and they still have Brotaco with an ultimate. They have a Wheelish coming back up with that gravity surge. They're going to be able to contest that as well here just as easily. The biggest thing to me in that fight was just how quickly that Bellona was shut down, coming in and disappearing around that same time period. This Ixchel is just dominating this map thus far, despite the magical defense Bellona's provided.
Oh, gonna roll it out again over this meteor. These two solo laners. Nobody able to displace the other, so they're just gonna have a boxing match on the world's smallest boxing ring. Dashing off is Brotaco, but wants to stick on it. Never mind, Brotaco will give it up. So something at least goes the way of Kappa Corp, and they're gonna try to also make this Stygian Beacon go their way too. But the Ganesh to your front line. Erlong Shen nearby as well. There's not the best engage going on here. Looking to just hold the territory right now. They have rotated the Jubilanke. Dharmic Pillars come down, but the Ganesh is being shredded. But diving in comes Cafe Catot and does take down the enemy Wheelix now. Muktekla Quick more than happy to continue churning through their abilities, putting out more damage. Mr. Pojangle will take down that kill. Good pluck there. Onto the... Oh, look at that. A fantastic double-mounted archery. Almost takes down two in the meantime. They shall survive. Cthulhu has arrived, full health, full mana to take this point. Another fight goes the way of the crew, but the Kappa Corp at least managed to pick up a kill and get some extra gold in their pocket.
Yeah, here's the thing. What can Commando do? From that soul lane, they come in, Brotaco's gonna follow right behind them, and if the fight's already lost, I mean, it's just adding in extra people there. Both of them going so even thus far. Brotaco at level 13. Similarly, Commando at level 13. Brotaco able to build more into that physical defense, able to provide a large wall against the majority of the damage that Kappa Corporation have available at this point, as Tiamat is not exactly online quite yet. Meanwhile, Commando has to split their mitigations, making it to where Brotaco is just able to provide so much more to a team fight that's already going their way.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle, and that is underselling it for Kappa Corp right now. They are 8,000 gold down. It's only just ticking over to 14 minutes into this game, so they need something big if they're going to make this work. One of that could be McThickler Quick just taking a shot from the Fire Giant just for fun, you know, just wants to see what's going to happen. Commando's actually only half health. I'm sure they are aware that there is a situation brewing, but I'm certain they don't know exactly how dangerous this situation could be. But Cactus Arms about to find out, doesn't manage to engage onto them correctly though, to the crew's gank squad over here. So a lot of time wasted, and that does mean that there is some farm to be had for the Enigma Skater and Spenguin on the left-hand side. So a bit of a reprieve for this left-hand side of the map, and actually Instead, Skater wants to teleport over, and they're going to make a play onto Alpha Awaken, who does get the Purification Beads. They can try to leap out over the wall. They leap out from the damning pillars, and there is no chase down available. Instead, the focus turns on to Bro Taco, who cancels the ult and dashes away. Fantastic Cthulhu play there. The crew have been on the front foot all the game so far, but they still know how to play on the back foot.
Yeah, the crew are just showing incredible adaptability. Speaking of...
Oh man, just reacting to the fact that the Enigma Skater steps up too far. Look at how long the Great End gets channeled for. But Thickler Quick doing whatever they want on this map, and they're being completely punished now. Our Kappa Corp plucked back into danger. His Cactus Arms nowhere to go. Alpha Awaken sticks around and picks up a kill for their troubles. This right-hand lane dominance now in favor of the crew.
Yeah. These games are damaging to the morale. Looking at a 2-17 match thus far, right before the 16-minute, as the crew are looking perhaps to take a Pyromancer here on top of everything as well. It's just a snowball quickly toppling down the mountainside and growing ever so larger here for the crew's side. It's a question, can Kappa Corporation find their way back into this game? They're looking at about a 9k gold behind the crew. And now with a Pyromancer as well, it just keeps on stacking the odds against them. At this point, they need to recognize that they can't push an advantage. They just need to find the slip up from the crew. Because Hachiman might just be.
Might be that gets on the mounted archery, but there is a whole cavalry here to cut them off. Still giving chase. Look at the reaction, though, from the rest of the crew. They are all here to save the life of Mr. Pujangle. The health bar got low, but they're lower on the enemy team. Thickler Quick continues to output the maximum possible damage that this E-Shell can do. Another 2 kills for the mid laner. And look who's teleported in onto this left-hand side. It's Bro Taco and Commando on their way to keep more action. Mr. Pujangle still survives with just the smallest amount of health, but they are alive and they are getting kills for their team.
Here's the shame of that entire engagement here. It was a great opportunity for Kappa Corporation to see the Hachiman too high up and try to react to that, but they knew the crew had just pulled away from that right-hand side. They knew they were looking towards that Gold Fury, and thusly, by pushing that weight, pushing that effort towards that left-hand side, the crew were just set up oh so nicely to react to the Hachiman gank and then go for the Oni Fury.
It's kind of crazy how it goes, you know, because like you were literally saying as it was happening, all the Kappa Corp needed to do was look for an opportunity of someone making a mistake. And for anyone watching, that Hachiman was making a mistake. Don't let the carries fool you. This card absolutely should not have been there. However, he stepped up so high, did burn his ult, and I believe both relics in the meantime. So there was gain for Kappa Corp, but the reaction was very good from the crew. They all committed to saying, we are saving our Hachiman here. The alternative is they could have, of course, just turned attention to the Fire Giant, but they decided they don't even need to do that. They're just going to take this big fight because they've been winning them all so far. And yeah, it was a fantastic reaction, exactly what the crew needed to do. And honestly, if you're Kappa Corp's in-game leader right now, what do you do? What do you tell your team? How do you keep them on page here? Because I mean, that was your opportunity, but it just didn't work out.
Build-wise, I think a major thing that's standing out to me is that in that last engagement there, we saw just how effective this Ixchel's healing is. When it was a little bit of healing on top of Cthulhu kind of, and as well as the Sobek, you can build a few of these anti-heal items and get a great amount of value from them. Yet we're not even seeing a Divine Ruin come out of this Tiamat who's laning directly against this Ixchel. I would love to see a bit more counter building here just to kind of prevent some of this snowball, some of this dominance we're seeing come out from mid lane.
Yeah, like you said, the mid lane healing is so powerful, and Divine Ruin is honestly a pretty good item at the moment. So really, there's no reason that this Tiamat has not built it on. At least for there to be some other like anti-heal in the builds, but nothing coming out. The Fire Giant is being done by the crew, and the frontliners are just zoning away. That's Alpha Awakened and Bro Taco there. Don't even have to do anything, just standing guard like bodyguards at a nightclub. Not interested in getting involved in the action, just watching it go down. And this is a moment for Kappa Corp to get a little bit of extra farm, so I quite like the call to not try and defend that, but at some point, they're going to have to defend their base.
Recognizing that Fire Giant was lost was a great call on the side of Kappa Corporation. This gives them time to clear out that left-hand jungle, as Erlong is doing right now. They find Tower over in the left side with X-Ball, but now with only Bellona here to defend on this tier 2, perhaps she should have been away!
Oh, man. Look, so there's a... I'm not even going to call it a debate, but there's a phrase people use called soft defense, which I am very much not a fan of. That was a soft defense coming out from Bellona there, and they paid the price ultimately, that they didn't react in time. And oh, that's a fantastic block. Does take down the Enigma Skater with that, despite a fantastic Dharmic Pillars. All the while, McThick Quick has been split pushing the mid lane and takes down a tier 2. Now, there has already been a Runic Bomb expended by the crew on this right side Phoenix, but here's Brotaco, goes absolutely huge in this fight, and now trying to defend this Phoenix. Kappa Corp having a pretty good time of it. The Phoenix still stands for a while, but dashing forward is Cactus Arms, and they will now fall down. Brotaco trying to get out of Phoenix range. Luckily, the Phoenix goes down. Spenguin puts out the damage, and that will be a kill. But now here comes the backup. The rest of the crew is on the scene. There are 4 members in the Titan room they're trying to take down. The 1 guard left standing in that fountain, but the respawns are coming out. There are now 3 members left alive. Fantastic blink taunt from Enigma Skater, and here comes the damage now from the Tiamat. Getting stunned out is Enigma Skater, but they might still find 1 kill, and yes, they shall in a second. This time for Commando. The turnaround now from Kappa Corp is exactly what they needed to get themselves back into it, but the damage from Mr. Pojangle a little bit too hard. Do the Kappa Corp stick with what they've got, or do they try to find a little bit more? It looks like the crew are backing away. Cactus Arms doesn't want to give this up on the hunt, but that will be that. A Phoenix goes down, but Kappa Corp pick up some much needed kills.
Much needed kills indeed. They were able to find a situation and respond effectively, keeping this game alive, if not for only a moment longer here, and keeping this pacing to where they can just try to keep on eking out a bit more farm and find themselves on that same footing, as the now level 20 Ixchel and Hachiman are 2 massive threats, and it would have been exceptional to take down in that situation. Finding any reprieve is exceptional for the Kappa Corporation. They could have maybe gone for this Gold Fury. I respect their caution here. It's just time for them to farm up, try to rebound, recommit to this idea of playing it safe and smart, as their Phoenix is down on the right side. Tier 2 only left available in that left-hand lane. If the crew find a couple more picks, that could spell endgame once again.
Well, Kappa Corp there, they did what they could, right? You have to defend your base in that situation. The alternative is you lose the game, and obviously no one wants to do that. But unfortunately, the 2 targets they didn't take down are these 2 guards who had that massive shutdown bounties in their pockets. So we have an 8-0 E-Shell and a 10-0 Hachiman. If either of one of those 2 goes down, that is so much of a gold swing in Kappa Corp's pocket that you might then start to be able to discuss a potential comeback into the game. Because don't get me wrong, this is still way, way difficult for Kappa Corp to manage, right? It's going to be so hard for them to turn it around. But if they had all that gold, they maybe could have started to look for some opportunity. Looks like instead the crew see an opportunity in left lane.
Opportunity in left lane, her emblem comes on out.
Already got the anti-heal off, but already taking down 1 kill is McThick Quick, just piling out the damage on the E-Shell. And yeah, the split push in right lane for Kappa Corp was too much of a commitment. They left the door open to this left side Phoenix. All of a sudden, the left side Phoenix being down as well as the right side Phoenix is a much, much, much worse situation to find yourselves in.
Now, we've seen situations like this before, and we know that even with all 3 Phoenixes down, any change can turn this game around. As the clock continues to tick forward here, Kappa Corporation are doing everything they can to continue their farm. Now we're looking at level 18 X-Ball, we're looking at level 19s for Bellona and Tiamat. We need that level 20 to start cropping on up here, as that's going to define how much damage they can really put out. Finishing off those starter items must be the top priority before this next big engagement. They're likely to give up the Fire Giant once again, knowing that they now have an even worse position than what they started with on that last Fire Giant. They need to find that farm, get those level 20s online like this Tiamat and that Bellona, finish off those starter items, and now look towards this final potential defense.
Well, what they need to do is make sure they take down at least one of McThickliquick or Mr. Pojang. Because unfortunately, I don't see this going their way without it. Unfortunately here, Cactus Arms has dashed in to try to maybe put up a sneaky steal on that Fire Giant and has been unsuccessful. Will manage to get out alive, but the Dharmic Pillars being down, that's a big part of your potential defensive tool off the table now, and Cactus Arms in some danger, gets caught by the Gravity Surge, and the Ganesh goes down. One of the frontliners now off the table for Kappa Corp, and this is going to leave so much space for the crew to do whatever they want with their enemy base. They've already taken this right side Phoenix down. They're going to turn attention to this mid lane Phoenix as well now, and now everyone just wants in. Alpha Awakened blinking in, doesn't find the connection they were looking for, but look at the damage under Commando. Minion waves are pouring in. The crew are looking for the end.
They're looking for the end here. That Dharma Pillar is going down along with Cactus Arms may spell that end game here. Titan looking low.
It's so close, but all of the backliners for Kappa Corp have gone down, and that will be that. The crew in 25 minutes, 59 seconds. A dominant performance from them, really bouncing back from last week's defeat. And honestly, based on that game, I have no clue how they managed to drop a game.
No, that game was dominant from the crew's perspective all the way through. Both teams made little mistakes here and there. As we mentioned, Hachiban positioning could have allowed Kappa Corporation to get a major kill over in that left game lane around that midway point. We lost that Dharmic Pillars on the Ganesha just at the very end there, but the crew had the momentum all the way throughout. They set it up early and brought it forth through that mid game and brought it forth through that epic finish there, just wrapping it up oh so nicely. Finding that pick, leading it into another Phoenix, having all three Phoenixes down, and just pushing for the Titan to execute out the win.
Well, it was a fantastic start for the crew, and like you said, a fantastic end from that point on as well. They just did everything they needed to do at all times. Maybe got a little bit sloppy with the lead at a certain point, which we've definitely seen teams make bigger mistakes. So you can you can afford to drop a little bit here and there. But the big point is McThickliquick and Mr. Pojangle on this E-Shell and Hachiman, both going deathless, both putting out huge amounts of damage. Now, 28k and 23k might not seem that much, but McThickliquick, I'm just going to put this into perspective, did more than 1,000 damage per minute in that game, while also providing 7.5 thousand healing. That is an absurd amount of damage dealt and healed for such a short game. And honestly, I'd ban the E-Shell. if I was Kappa Corp, I'd be like, nope, absolutely don't want to see that in the next game.
Yeah, no, that Ixchel was just too dominant all the way throughout there. I don't know if it's the god, I don't know if it's the player, but I'll definitely keep my eye on that mid position. We don't want to see McThickliquick with that Ixchel once again, but it's just a question of can they afford that ban slot?
Well, it was a lightning fast game one. We're going to take a lightning fast break as well, but afterwards we'll be coming back for game number 2. Do not go anywhere. All right, everybody, welcome on back to game number 2 between the crew and Kappa Corporation. And you guys remember about 5 minutes ago when I, on stream, right at the end of that game, said, I have no idea how the crew managed to drop a game last week? Well, it turns out, clairvoyant me was totally right because the crew did not drop a game last week. They did, in fact, win their game last week. There was a little bit of confusion on the information I had been given, but we now know the correct answer, and that is the fact that the crew did win last week. And like I said, based on that game, I could see this team look strong.
Yeah, any mistakes we make, we can blame on Raptor. But
Exactly.
crew have not been making mistakes, executing near perfection in game number 1. It's going to be an uphill battle for Kappa Corporation to come back from this one. We do see some bans going out here in the beginning, but it's more or less what we would expect from the Athena to the Bake Kagure. There's nothing really shaking it up here quite yet, but Judas, you mentioned it last game. You're looking for an Ixchel ban.
Absolutely. Now, we didn't, of course, get to see the sequence of picks and bans for game number 1. So I'm not sure when this eShell was picked up, but I would assume it was picked up towards the end of a draft, right? It's not a guard you'd pick in like your top 3, like basically ever. There was so much else on the table there. So I assume it was picked up quite late. But if you are Kappa Corporation, you can't risk that guard slipping through to the second phase of bans. You know, if you try to wait that long for that to happen, it's just not going to work. I think the guard was so strong that I'm pretty sure the crew would at least want to run it back. Not sure exactly if that was the case. But one thing that has slipped through the cracks of the first ban phase yet again is this Hachiman pick. But the Hachiman this time will actually be going the way of Kappa Corporation. Is this the type of pick that they would have needed to get through that last game? Because it was a rough start, but if they had a Hachiman, could they at least have held on?
That's a good question because they gave up so much in that duel lane. That X-Ball versus the Hachiman did result in Hachiman really taking a lead by about 3 to 4 levels as we looked as he hit level 20, and X-Ball was still just about level 15, 16 as these team fights really erupted in that late game. Is it the god or was it just the kind of power that the enemy team, that the crew were exuding? They were able to take control of every situation, and I don't know if it was just the Hachiman. As we can see, it seems like we're going to be seeing a on her over in that dual lane as well, which is even more dangerous for that early game aggression.
Yeah, we know anyone who's playing it on her is looking to fight, and they're looking to fight early and often. And it's a god that we do see picked into Hachiman quite often because Hachiman, of course, is just a late game beast. We've seen in that last game even how powerful a mounted archery can be, and by powerful I mean how it can completely bail you out when you are making a very obvious mistake. However, Anhurt does a pretty good job of punishing that. You know, if you get to disperse into a pillar stun or just an impale stun into the wall, then all of a sudden you can really dish out the damage into a Hachiman who, if they try to escape on that mounted archery, of course, you then have Desert Fury to try to chase them down after the fact. So I like this pickup of the Anhur. I think that's what's needed into a Hachiman because you still want to wrangle in the dual lane, of course, of the Kappa Corporation, because they do still pick up that Ganesh. They have gone back to that god who, of course, didn't have the best showing, but Ganesh isn't one of those picks that really takes over a game, but you can have a really tough game on it sometimes. But I do like the confidence here from Cactus Arms to go back to that pick, because Ganesh, when it goes well, can be just one of the strongest gods on the map.
What shall I
We
create
do
next?
see an Ixchel here being
knew it.
locked and loaded. Perhaps should have been banned in that first round, but this does set up opportunity for the rest of the Kappa Corporation to kind of adjust to maybe if they're not willing to build into that Divine Ruin or into other kind of Contagion or Pestilence, these other anti-heal options, perhaps they can build it via the natural statuses of these gods, something like a Cerberus, something that's going to just negate the outright effectiveness of this god in some measure. Now, how effective is this god going to be? Well, looking at game number one, she dominated it. She had incredible damage, she brought incredible healing, and she had map-wide pressure. We do have a counter to that now in the way of this Ratatasker. Being able to kind of rotate with that global ultimate should provide a bit more value for the team than the Erlong Shen was ever able to really provide. Now, the
Yep.
big question here is should they have gone that over the Thanatos? It may just come down to preference.
I think all of those guards you mentioned there are good choices, and I do think it's much, much better than the Erlong Shen is into an E-Shell. Because the one thing that Ratatasker will do, similarly to what Thanatos, who's of course banned, and Thor, who's also been banned, would do, is what they could do is they can dive onto this E-Shell, knock them up, stun them, and hopefully, at least from the point of view of Kappa Corporation, kill this guard before they are able to get into that ultimate. Because once E-Shell enters the Great End, she becomes much more of a difficult target. I also really like the bans coming out from the crew here, actually banning away the Osiris and the Odin. Odin would have been probably my god of choice to take down this E-Shell, but now maybe having to look towards that Cerberus, there's really not a whole lot of options left. Cerberus is of course a strong god at the moment, as we mentioned, solo laner, Guardian picks being quite popular at the moment, but it's not the easiest god to execute on. It can be quite inconsistent to hit all of the damage, and especially the stun coming out from Cerberus. But is Cerberus the choice that they necessarily have to go? Are there any other solo laners you might choose instead to go up against the Z-Shell?
I mean, Osiris banned out, Odin banned out. These are some very strong options that is completely removed off the table because of these exceptional bans coming out from the crew. Like you mentioned, Caprican seems to be the option here. Locked in here very quickly. I'm not too sure about this one. I do think he has the potential for high amounts of damage. He can be effective in a team fight, and he can lock down this Ixchel with the Tremors plus his ultimate combination. But how is he going to fare against this Bologna? It's going to be interesting to see.
Now, I unfortunately do not remember the player's name, so if I can look it up, I will try to find it. I'm sure it was like Hughes or something like that was his name. But this is a guy in EU who used to run Cabrakan solo, build it full damage. He'd be like 0-7, 20 minutes into the game, but then all of a sudden he'll just come alive, take out the backline, and then die, and his team would win games off of that. Now, to be honest, that was not the most consistent way of playing the game, but I would love to see if that can come back. Because if it is possible for these players to actually play these difficult to execute gods, right? We mentioned Cabrakan because they are potentially so strong, and it does look like they're going in the soul lane, but it's such a difficult god to actually make work. But when it does come off, man, it can be so good. And of course, Marticulus kind of falls into that situation as well. So I do want to keep a very close eye on all of these players from Kappa Corp because I love the draft they've gone for, but I really need to see it work out.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how exactly it plays out. If Caprican does choose to go into that solo lane here, he is going to find himself up into a potentially hard matchup. It's going to take him a while to come online, whilst someone like Bologna should have a very kind of easy, clear kind of game plan throughout the entirety of this match. And it sounds like we're headed to head into this game number 2. Last game, it was very dominant, the side of the crew. Now we have to see if this blue team, if this Kappa Corporation can really turn things around. And Judas, do you see what I see?
Yeah, I'm seeing that our observer should probably move away from this situation. Did they pause? Did they pause on that? Are you guys kidding me? For really right now? Let's not look at that. Let's move on. Let's move on to the game because unfortunately, Kappa Corporation, they're reenacting game 1 by the looks of it. So we'll move past that and instead look to game number 2, as I'm sure they're all hoping to do. And one thing I would have liked to touch on is if I'm the team captain or the in-game shot caller for Kappa Corp, I'm just looking to point out to all of the team, you guys have to keep it tight in these early stages, right? If you are letting early kills go the way of the crew again. I think it was like 5-0 in the first 7 minutes or so. You just can't be letting that happen. You need to make sure that First Blood is earned and it has to be difficult for the crew, and you just have to keep everything as reliable, because unfortunately when you have a game won like you did, you don't really learn any lessons from that. You don't get to really study how your team played and really reflect on it. But the best way to manage that this time is to actually have a solid tight game in game number 2, and I really hope that we can see just an easier start or a simpler start from Kappa Corporation. Kappa Corporation this time.
So funnily enough, I was talking about the Kibrakan in the jungle lane, starting off with his Bumba's hammer, or Bumba's dagger, looking to kind of swap up what we
expected. It's a Cap jungle.
Yes, it's a Caprican jungle. That's what I was looking at.
I saw something else.
Yeah,
I saw something else.
Our eyes were all over the place, and that's fine. That means Ratatasker's going into the solo lane. Very out of the pocket. Many people in the solo lane, maybe people like the pro players such as FineOK, or perhaps like Solo Troll, would tell you Ratatasker does not perform exceptionally well into that lane currently. These Guardians, these Warriors have just been so dominant now after the meta of Season 10 that you don't really see the Ratatasker anymore, especially after nerfs in that same season. We'll have to see what Commando can bring forth.
Yeah, I'm not a big hater of Ratatasker solo. I've seen it be impactful. I've seen plenty of good games from this god, but I'm probably a bigger fan of that than Cabrakan in the jungle. It can still do what I'd suggested it do earlier, in what you can just kind of seize an opportunity and look to just blow someone up from the jungle. So going for the full fat Loki style, which we do love to see from this point of view, but it's even more of a difficult situation than if you were playing it in the solo lane. So huge eyes onto Enigma Skater, who has to be so careful, because if you start falling down to Alpha Awaken on this Hoonbat's probably one of the best gods in the game for punishing a Cabrakan jungle.
To say the exact same thing there, Judas. This Cabrakan has an uphill battle because he's not going to be building that tanky kind of build that we're used to seeing in solo or in that support lane that allows him to kind of take a bit of that damage on the cheek and keep on trucking. This Hoonbats, whenever he sees it, hold that thought.
Oh, fantastic impale into the wall, and that just sets up Mr. Pojangle for the First Blood in this dual lane onto the Hachiman. What did I say, Reed? What did I say? First Blood needs to be difficult, and it was not at all there. Simple enough from Mr. Pojangle. Basically did it all themselves. Bambi was helping out, providing a little bit of a distraction, but unfortunately for Spenguin, they just got caught. They got caught out by a fantastic impale, and yeah, the confidence there from Mr. Pojangle to finish him off as well. Great start for the crew's duel lane.
Yeah, the positioning there was just able to be taken advantage of there. Hachiman was a little bit too far forward and allowed on her to find consistent auto attack pressure, followed up by that leap into the impale. Just set up that on her perfectly. Could not ask for more in that situation. But as we were talking about previously, this Caprican is going to have a hard time getting into this game in the first place. Going to be farming slower than the Hunbats. Does not have quite as an impactful of ultimate into the late game either. But if he can find that point where he can get these good trades, go in, maybe blow up the Eggshell, maybe blow up the Hunbats, that's going to be great for him. We just have to see if he'll be allowed to find those situations.
And it's always going to be a tough situation to find, as now finds himself in a already bad situation, getting caught by Alpha Awaken, looping around. Oh, actually will somersault in will the Hoonbats, but doesn't have any follow-up damage from Quick, who is unfortunately out of mana. Bro Taco wants to accentuate the early pressure in this solo lane and has already used the bludgeon. This will draw in Commando. Commando spots out Alpha Awaken and smartly there chooses to dash on back to the lane, not willing to give up a kill alongside their blue buff. But Ratatasker, like you said, not the strongest god in the solo lane, and certainly would have liked to have that blue buff.
Yeah, I mean, with no blue buff, one taken by the Bologna, one taken by Alpha Awaken, means that Commando is going to have an even tougher time kind of keeping that mana up, allowing him to use his abilities to clear his lane effectively. Bologna may be able to provide less damage than he can, and he can stun out her bludgeon, as we just saw. But past that, she should just be clearing outright faster than him and have a strong early to mid game versus this Ratatasker.
Yeah, no boxing potential there for the rat either. Of course, when you have a Balloon, oh,
Big
hold on,
wave.
Bambi that wants to do it all by themselves. Actually going to get the purification beads. Arts of Penguin as well. So this Hachiman now sitting duck for a Fear No Evil from Alpha Awakening as well. It's all going so well for Crew all over the map. They are just winning their head-on matchups in every lane.
Yeah, thus far it's been crew-centric. We do have Exigma swaying over into this right-hand jungle, looking to set up for the Kappa Corporation's dual lane.
Oh no, Cactus Arm's in some danger. Doesn't get caught, but does get hit by the Desert Fury. A great wall there from Enigma Skater. That will be that. Oh my goodness, going in is Penguin and punished for it, rightly so. And here comes the rest of the damage over the wall. Here come the Crew. Storm up over to the dual lane as a full-on force of 4 people and take down 3 kills across the board. Fantastic start for the Crew yet again.
Yeah, I mean, Cafe Cat backs away. We see the Kappa come in looking for that gank. Already, dual lane not in a great position. They can't quite follow up. And with no eyes on that Nick Shell, no eyes on that Ratask, or not Ratask, sorry, on that Hunbat, they're just allowed to kind of free rotate here. And now they even start to pull the Gold Fury? It's 5 minutes in, Judas.
Going for a very, very fast Gold Fury, and it looks like they're gonna succeed. They take some damage, but the sustain from the E-Shell. McThicklequick putting on a real show on this god. Not the most popular pick, but I don't really see why at the moment. Brotako wants to invade yet another blue buff. Doesn't want to be shown up by the rest of the map. But unfortunately cannot do that because of the 3-man rotation from Kappa Corporation. But man, the Crew just playing it all so well. Not only are they taking good fights, but they're also taking exactly what they need to after that too.
Yeah, so this is QSL's lowest division. This is Puddle. However, the biggest thing I can take a note of here that is seemingly allowing the Crew to manipulate these games exactly how they want. It's not just coming down to play, it's coming down to the ward coverage. It's coming down to communication. It's coming down to the sight lines. They are able to have so much more information over the Kappa Corporation that allows them to pull off such exceptionally ridiculous plays like going for that Gold Fury so early. It's now allowed them to transition to a point where they're already, once again, 3K ahead here at the 6-minute mark.
3K ahead already. Gold Fury in pocket. It's even better than they were previously. Ooh, Penguin there needs to be careful. I certainly don't want to be giving up anything cheap when you're already at such a deficit. But does manage it okay. Manages to juggle the aggro, so no real danger. Unfortunately, we'll have to back the base, but real danger here for Enigma Skater getting chased down. That's a fantastic Stygian summon there coming out from Bambi, and that sets up yet another kill in this set for McThicklequick, picking up where they left off. Still no deaths on this E-Shell, still no deaths on Mr. Pojangle on this Anher. I just wonder where it's going to come from, because right now, Kappa Corporation are really struggling to just find a foothold in the game.
And I hate being a doomer, but I liked their composition better in game number 1 for both teams. For Kappa Corporation, they had a better composition during that game 1. The draft looked a little bit stronger for them. Hunbat's trying to get a little bit of something here. Doesn't quite find it, but comes back in with a Fear No Evil.
Oh, look at the damage now onto Enigma Skater. Here comes the power of an E-Shell, and Alpha Awaken finishes off their opposing jungler. 0-3 now for the Cabrakan jungle. It's going, unfortunately, the way we kind of expected it might go, and Commando also being forced off of their farm. Happy Cat, look out! Look out, there's danger behind you. Luckily, this cat has wings, and she'll take off and get out of danger, but there is danger around every corner because the Crew are around every corner.
The Crew have a masterful composition. It makes it seem even more unreasonable that the Kappa Corporation could bring this back here. I love the amount of CC coming out from both the Guardian and the Assassin Hunbats, providing a great amount of force onto any and all team fights. They have amazing rotations and have been keeping so consistently ahead of Kappa Corporation. Hunbats coming around this corner once again.
Oh, wow. Somehow Cactus Arms dashes right into that monkey. I'm hoping they weren't expecting that and just suddenly got a big jump scare there. But here comes Enigma Skater, hoping to provide a jump scare of their own, but a fantastic wave again, and a fantastic Eagles rally to follow it up. Alpha Awaken gets out alive. Commando gets onto the tree alive. There's actually nobody who has fallen down yet in this fight. Somehow, everyone gets out alive, but the health bars were very low in the process. But that's just what this Cabrakan can actually do. You see the damage onto Alpha Awaken. We need to see some more of that from the Enigma Skater. But as we mentioned, it's just such a difficult god to play in this situation.
Yeah, I think there is a future here in this very game where Kappa Corporation could bring it back, but they do have a higher execution expectation here. It does seem like for the side of the crew, they can just kind of plug and play while Kappa Corporation have to figure out an entirely separate form of meta to play here. With the Ratatasker solo, with the Caprican in that mid lane, they bring out the Martichorus, and I love the Martichorus, but against this Ixchel, it hasn't really proven itself quite yet. Now, I do think Cafe Cat provided some exceptional positioning, ready to kind of react to that massive amount of damage that was provided by that Caprican, reacting into that right position to take advantage of the Hunbats trying to somersault out, but just couldn't find the damage quite yet.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough for this Martichorus to have an impact early on, but as we get further into the game, this god, of course, known to be quite an oppressive god in the right situation, does, of course, provide a lot of self-healing, maybe to contend with the damage output coming from the quick on this E-Shell. But, of course, you know, can take to the sky with the death from above, can actually counter out the Great End pretty effectively. So, I would like to see some more fighting from Cappy Cat, but rightly so, not yet. You know, they've been passive so far, they've been patient. Oh, Alpha Awaken there.
Wonderful.
Not so patient on the Fear No Evil. Fantastic ult from Commando gets them out. And Cactus Arms constantly wants to brawl, and this might be a great opportunity to do so. Double relics. Another absolutely phenomenal wave, but a great ult now from the Enigma Skater. That is exactly how you want to take down this E-Shell. That is the game plan in motion right there. And it went very, very well for them, but how does the fight look after the fact? Some low health bars and not a lot of cooldowns to work with. Alpha Awaken gets caught. No Fear, No Evil, of course. So that big cooldown off the table, and it looks like it might just be a blue buff for the crew, who actually don't gain anything else. So for what feels like the first time in a long time, Reed, it looks like Kappa Corporation have actually won a team fight.
Yeah, coming out ahead on that one. They found the kill on the big, thick Liquid. The guys, the god, the man in charge who did not seem like he could fall down in any situation. Game number one. This is that exceptional combination coming out from the Caprican and this Ganesha's Dharmic Pillars, both of them working together hand in hand to just completely decimate any chance that this Ixchel had of getting out. And seeing that Hunbats had used his Fear No Evil, no ultimate in hand, meant that they had an even easier time for that Caprican to work his way inside and get involved. Now, here at the 12-minute mark, both teams look towards the Stygian Beacon.
Well, winning a fight is great for the confidence, but they need to make sure, the Kappa Corporation, that they do not get overconfident. You are still 5,000 gold down. There's a lot of strong gods on the enemy team, and that will be a beacon handed over to the crew, because unfortunately there was just no way the Kappa Corporation would be able to defend it there. But now it is on the crew to reassert themselves onto this map. They still have a handy lead, like I'd mentioned. They've taken this objective. They need to convert this into a bit more if they want to really extend this lead. They got their bloody nose. Let's see how they react after the fact. And it looks like they're going to make a look at this Gold Fury again.
Reaction may just be this Gold Fury, but first they seem to turn their attention towards this Hachiman. He takes notice. That's the value of warding. That's the value of kind of having those two higher positions now. But can anyone on the Kappa Corporation react to the Gold Fury here?
Well, there's no one nearby just yet. On the way is Cactus Arms. And Dharmic Pill has actually a good ability to try to steal and will succeed. Cactus Arms manages to get in and snatch away that objective. All the while, the rest of the Kappa Corporation, the alternative conglomerate on the mid lane and right side, take down the Pyromancer. And that's a fantastic ult combination. Here comes Enigma Skater, and that's Penguin taking down Mythicla quick. Yet again, falling down twice in this game. Cactus Arms once more does not get the grapple onto anybody, but the confidence must be absolutely flying now for Kappa Corporation.
And we just talked about how brilliant that was coming out of Kappa Corporation. From a game where it just seemed that it could not go their way in game number 1 to now where they may still be behind, but they're showing off their ingenuity. They're showing that they're creative players that can react and understand situations and adapt to them properly. They found a way to close off this gap provided by the Eggshell. They closed off how much value she was providing for her team through this combination of Dharmic Pillars and Caprican. They can just lock her down whenever. And when they noticed that, they stopped their aggression onto that Hachiman in left lane. They knew they would go for that Gold Fury, sent up the Ganesh to try to confirm it the best that he could, and then had Cafe Cat and the Caprican had that Enigma Skater go for the Pyromancer. That's a brilliant trade-off. That's a brilliant level of recognition and play coming out from our blue team here from the Kappa Corporation.
And it's a fantastic choice as well. And this is something that lots of teams can learn from. You know, you had the sort of hedged bet of some members of the team were going for the Pyromancer. That's almost a guarantee, right? You pretty much know you can take that without the Ganesh. So you just send this Ganesh over, who has a reasonable ult for stealing objectives. Obviously, it's not this big burst, but it has those frequent ticks of damage, which is what I'll provided. Just enough damage to steal it away. But if that doesn't go the way of Cactus Arms, if you only don't get the Gold Fury, you lose your Ganesh, but you take down the Pyromancer, honestly, Kappa Corp should be pretty happy with that situation. So they had a good situation, and Cactus Arms there, fantastic play, just makes it into a little bit more. And that's, of course, what gave them the confidence to take a fight again in mid lane. Now, it is only the 2 kills for Kappa Corporation, but given that they got them onto this one player who was such a menace in game 1, it's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah. I've got to say the biggest things for me coming out of Kappa Corporation is if they can provide the ward coverage they need, they have the ability to react properly and kind of adapt to any situation that comes before them. They just need to make sure they get that ward coverage earlier, set up in a way that they can stay safe, as well as working on their positioning a bit here, especially in that dual lane. That's been the biggest problem for this Hachiman for Penguin thus far. Get those things on lock and they become much more of a dominant force. Speaking of dominant force here,
oh, another fantastic wave. What is going on in the House of Bambi? Just constantly laying down some fantastic surges. Oh no, Enigma Skater gets caught by their own wall. There's no retreat path, but they do find one in the mid lane and they get under their own tower. Commando now shows up to provide a little bit of protection, but there's still 4 members of the crew barreling down this mid lane, making eyes at this tier 1 tower, but it's a bit too dangerous to step into, so it is only the pick onto the Ganesh so far. Cactus Arms not having the easiest game on this Ganesh. It is still always an option to just kill off the elephant. Not going quite so badly though as game number 1. And again, you have to sort of take the small wins when you can find them, but there might be a win. Hold on, Penguin dashing in there into 2. That surely should have been a death sentence, but as yet not. Enigma Skater comes back in. Alpha Awakened in more danger. Blown up is Alpha Awakened, but Enigma Skater trades himself out onto Mr. Bojangles. Cactus Arms back on the scene. They're all fighting over this beacon that hasn't spawned yet. A great Dharmic Pillars, but huge damage coming out from the rest of the crew. Now the health bars are much, much higher on the Chaos side. It's all in the beacon. Surely Kappa Corporation have to give this one up.
early they do, just a little bit more of a bar to tick on there, though they see the potential for this Gold Fury as well. The Kappa Corporation does not seem to want to react to the Gold Fury, instead student trade 1-for-1 for the Pyromancer here as well.
Well, it's a good trade. We saw in the past, you know, when you are down in this situation and you've been trying to get back into it. Oh, this Pyromancer's going to be close. Commando's low. Bro Taco is in. Putting us some damage on the Cafe Cat. Up to into the sky goes Commando, but they need to get out. They need to signal to their team that there are more members of the crew on the way. Dashing out is Penguin. Will get live. Cactus Arms, where are you going, man? Off way up on their own little adventure. Now, do they know that have been spotted? And yeah, have been caught. Fire Giant started up actually by the crew, and Cactus Arms would have been perfectly positioned to contest that, but now will not be able to. The crew do pull the objective. It doesn't look like Kappa Corporation are interested in contesting it.
I've got to say, I feel bad there for Cactus Arms. He was trying to save the day. He noticed the bomb had not been picked up, so he scooted his way up to that bomb while the rest of the team, the rest of the crew, barreled on board. He may have saved the bomb, but he lost his life and lost the Fire Giant in return.
And that's just a really tough situation, right? Because I'm sure Cactus Arms, fresh off of that recent Gold Fury steal, would have totally backed themselves if they'd managed to stay in that position and hadn't actually been spotted out. I'm not quite sure what it was that actually spotted the Ganesh. I think it might have been Brotaco. Oh, fantastic pillow that has absolutely locked Enigma Skater in place. However, Mr. Bojangles has actually used their Desert Fury on the Fire Giant to secure it, so could have been punished there, but was not. And just in case, Bambi throws over a wave to keep them safe. So no sneaky pick there from Kappa Corporation, but that's exactly what they needed to do. And despite the rough start from this Kabrakan jungle, last 8-9 minutes or so, it's actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the point where Kabrakan Jungle really starts to kind of express that value. He has the Polynomicon unlocked, he has the counter heal with the Divine Ruin, he has a good amount of penetration, he can really start to be that effective force that we want to see from Kabrakan. If at worst, he can trade 1-for-1 and bring down valuable targets like the Ixchel down with him. Now, the thing here is getting into those positions, like we mentioned earlier. They've got the River Styx in the pocket of Charon. They've got the Fear No Evil coming out from Hunbats. There's a lot of shutdown CC to prevent this movement against Kabrakan. But thus far, we've seen so far good things. Don't love seeing that blink there, but running away in that situation
just
was
get
the
spooked,
right call.
man.
It was
Look,
spooky.
It was very spooky. You know, there were two people on that mid camp. You know, the oracles there. We are kind of making fun of them a little bit, and I don't want to do that. But it was a situation that probably did require a blink out. As much as we can see the body language of Alpha Awakened, probably weren't going in there. I'm sure Kabrakan was very fearful of a blink Fear No Evil coming out. So I don't think it's the worst blink out in the world, but like you mentioned, it's so tough for this Kabrakan to get in. Of course, a relatively low mobility god. You really need that blink relic to actually get you into these fights, and in particular onto McThick on this Ixchel, because if Kabrakan's not doing it, there is no one who could really initiate onto this god, because Cactus Arm is just getting blown up too quickly.
Yeah, definitely not trying to criticize the blink from Kabrakan. We can just recognize the value of that relic in his pocket. It's just, you know, sometimes there's comedy in all things. Speaking of all things, it seems to be erupting here on the battlefield before this tier 2.
Oh man, that is not funny for the Kappa Corporation, as they have already lost 2 members of their team, their entire front line already off the table. And that has given way for the crew to make their way into this mid lane Phoenix. Now the siege defense is pretty good, but it's still a 5-on-3 scenario, and an Eagles rally all the way deep right onto Spengler, and they are going to have to retreat. The mid lane Phoenix has already fallen down. Now the crew consider going for the end. They then reassess their options and will now look to push into this left side Phoenix instead. But it looks like the rest of Kappa Corporation want to defend this. You want to keep at least another one of these Phoenixes up. The Phoenix is falling though just too fast, and it will go down. Cat will pick up Bambi in response, but as a support, everyone knows the support is screaming Worth in that situation.
Worth! Bambi
Absolutely.
screaming out for sure. That's, I mean, at this point, crew, once again, are finding the snowball well within their hands. They're looking for a Gold Fury. They're looking for more and more farm across this board. They lose one, but take 2 Phoenixes down with them. It's exceptional value for them as Cactus tries to find that steal once again. We need to talk about how effective they've been on their overall objective control, but also how well Kappa Corporation have done thus far of ensuring that they don't have these Pyromancer bombs. By preventing that, they really do reduce the siege effort, at least to a certain degree.
Yes, it would be a lot more difficult for Kappa Corporation to keep the rest of the enemy team out if those runic bombs were just taking these structures down faster. But unfortunately for Kappa Corporation, despite that being a great choice, and they yet again picked up another runic bomb, it just means they're sitting with these bombs in pocket and they just don't have any opportunity to use them. So at this point, it's even taking up your ward spaces, and it's now becoming a bit more of a detriment. They need to be more willing to drop these bombs even in team fight. It doesn't necessarily have to connect, but at least something to dissuade all of this aggression from the crew, because what the crew have done very well is take down the enemy front line, and they're not going to do it again onto Commando, who falls down before being able to climb up onto the world tree, and again the crew may guides for the fire giant.
Oni Fury's pushing in that left lane, can't have Hachiman respond. Oh, Fire Giant already at half HP here. It seems as if Kappa Corporation just have to give it up yet again. They have been unable to contest a single Fire Giant all the way throughout this set. And Cactus, big respect up to him to try to always work his way up and find a way in these situations. But it's because he keeps on pushing up here that sometimes he might just get caught out, resulting in more danger for his team. All eyes on this right-hand Phoenix. This could be the final push.
Well, they're charging in on the crew, but there's some good defense from the Enigma Skater, but the Fear No Evil will put them in more danger, and the structure has fallen. Now the Hunbat has also gone down. McTickler Quick almost falling down, but Spenguin cannot do it. Mr. Pojangle here ripping through the enemy team. A triple kill for the Anher, doing whatever they want in this fight, and they've had so much space. Why not go for a couple more kills? Now they're looking onto Enigma Skater. It's a quadra kill for Mr. Pojangle. Who cares about ending the game? The Anher wants the Penta, but unfortunately the blink from Commando is too much, and they're still hunting for it. Will have to settle for the quadra, but they will also not settle at all for the game win. Hold on, the Ratatosk's back on the map. Mr. Pojangle wants at least the unofficial, but never mind. McThickler Quick takes it away. It will be a 2-0 victory in again a 25-minute game for the crew. What a set from them.
Monstrous. The crew are a team to watch here in this Puddles division. They have proved that they do not belong with the rest here. They are demons in sheep's clothing. Now, the biggest thing for me there was, what could Kappa Corporation have done differently to kind of abate a bit of that aggression we saw? We saw them just put up that soft defense, like you said before, Judas. They were looking around that tier 2, just trying to put up that bumper, but were unable to commit to it. And that resulted in 1, 2, 3 picks going the way of the crew. And then yet again, over onto that right side there, Ratatasker was simply farming, trying to hit that level 20, gets picked off, results in catastrophe for the side of Kappa Corporation. Knowledge, positioning, these are the things they need to work on, and then we know they have the ability to execute quite well indeed.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's tough. You know, it's really tough from the side of Kappa Corporation, because they clearly had a game plan there, right? It was lock in that E-Shell, take down McThickler Quick. They recognized the problem in game 1, which I would have said too was that E-Shell, right? Then they left it through Picks and Mans. I might have banned it personally, but I can also understand the angle of letting it go through, making sure it gets picked up, and then just counter-picking the hell out of it with your last 2 picks. But they made a fatal mistake, and they did not consider Mr. Pojangle from the carry role deathless for the set. Nothing was stopping that guy today.
Yeah, they did a great job of reacting and shutting down that eggshell, like you said, but on her. You may not see it expressed purely through the player damage, but that's going to go onto the objective siege. It's going to go onto that presence. It's going to go onto that ability to have both the eggshell and the on her be such incredible burn potential onto those Gold Furies. And that stacked up. They went for Gold Fury at 5 minutes.
Crazy. It's just not something you see often, right? At least when the composition is not specifically built around that. You see sometimes with like a Fafnir or something like that, and then maybe like a Soul or an Izanami with mannequins. You can see sometimes team comps are just designed to do that. But these guys just recognize, hey, can we do this? They give it a try as far, and hell yeah, they could do it. And yeah, that early goal, Fury, I don't really want to say set the tone for the rest of the game, because there was still a period of time where Kappa Corporation were more than in that game, but recognizing opportunities is what the crew did so well, and that's why they find themselves doing so well so far in this season. But Reed, that is it for today. We have seen a fantastic performance from the crew. We almost saw a pentakill from Mr. Pojangle. It was in my heart. I was rooting for you, buddy, I promise. But unfortunately, it's just the Quadra today. But it's still a fantastic Quadra to seal off a fantastic set from the crew. But that will be it for today. I've been Judas Priestley, joined by Really Reed, and we've also had Brokazoid on the backside, making everything happen for you visually. But we will be back again tomorrow, and we'll catch you guys then.